My name in the system was Ledger. I held blue spectrum clearance under Directorate of Operations, Near East Mission Center, Compartment Hum-Retain, Sub-Compartment 7H. That meant I was authorized to maintain, move, and, if necessary, buy back human sources in denial environments. I wasn't a shooter. I wasn't demo. I walked assets through pressure until they broke or came home. My cover was commercial logistics arbitration. My physical base of movement that night sat at 35.707 North, 51.392 East, 2 floors above a shuttered dental lab in Tehran. The date was October 14, 2025. The team on paper didn't exist as a team. We were written as separate consultancy elements under different tasking codes. That was the first problem. You don't splice people from different compartments into one van unless you don't plan on filing the after-action into any one compartment. When that happens, it means someone upstairs is laundering custody. When someone launders custody, either a war crime is about to happen or a miracle is about to be claimed. Sometimes both. I met Rook first. Call sign Rook. He ran Spectrum and Link Integrity. A small guy, quiet, civilian hair, cheap glasses, local jacket from Valyasur so he wouldn't pop. He carried a soft pack with a handheld SDR rig, wideband scanner, and a narrow beam burst transceiver that wasn't on any book I'd ever signed for. He said it was tuned for crosstalk rejection in dense structure, which is a cute way of saying, we're going under mass and I don't trust the line of sight. His hands shook until the gear turned on. Then they didn't. You could smell solder on him. Burnt flux, old copper. Then there was Gallows. That name wasn't subtle. Breach and denial. Former EOD, broad torso, shoulders like a doorframe. He wore local cleric black, but it hung wrong on him because of the armor plates taped flat across his abdomen. He carried a torch lance, 2 palm thermite punches, and a roll of linear charge taped in brown paper so it looked like bread from distance. He joked about that. "Carb load," he said. He didn't smile when he said it. He just bared teeth. I watched him open and reclose the same Pelican case 3 times like his hands needed to feel weight. His breath had the dry coffee acid of somebody who hadn't slept on purpose. Mason was security. Outer ring, inner ring, last ring. Mason had JSOC posture written all over him no matter how much local cloth they draped over it. Square stance, feet always indexed, chin tucked, left wrist taped where tendon meets thumb. He never said which unit. He never had to. You can smell that type. CLP oil, old cordite, gum to cover nerves he says he doesn't have. His eyes never stopped mapping choke points in the apartment. He didn't like that the only exit was one narrow stairwell past a steel door with a cheap Chinese lock. He took that lock off with pliers and replaced it with his own without asking whose place this was. That told me his. Chain outranked mine. We had Tariq for language and local handshake. Tariq wasn't his real name. He was born in Shiraz, studied mechanical engineering in Germany, and came back broke. He could pass in conservative company and he could talk like a contractor. He knew which interior guys would take a quiet payout and which ones would sell you to IRGC just to clear their own file. He had a note of rose oil on him. Clean, fresh, didn't match the room. That meant he showered somewhere else before coming here. That meant he didn't want us to know where he slept. Last was Vega. Field medic. Not agency. Not military anymore. She had Pararescue ink half removed down her forearm, under a cheap wristwatch from a sidewalk stall. She carried a compact trauma kit, airway tools, and a portable monitor the size of a paperback. The monitor was interesting. It ran dark. No manufacturer label. She said it could read perfusion without a needle. She said she could do a metabolic panel off skin contact in 30 seconds. I asked who signed that kit out. She said, Control. I asked, which control? She said nothing. That was my first real alarm. She said, Control, like it was a single person we all reported to. We did not all report to the same person. Rook's chain was different from mine. Mason's chain was different from mine. Tariq didn't even officially exist, but Vega said control, like control, was one hand above all of us. That was a structural tell. That meant we were walking into something that sat above normal interagency walls. You only see that when it's nuclear, or it's biological, or it's older than paperwork. The official mission was simple on paper. We were told we were doing a controlled recovery of a U.S. national being unlawfully detained in a non-declared holding site under Tehran Municipal Authority. The language was important. Unlawfully detained, not captured, not imprisoned, not hostage. That wording let our side claim moral high ground without admitting active operational presence inside the city. We were told Iran would deny knowledge of the black site and later blame a rogue element. We were told our presence would not be acknowledged if we were burned. Standard, clean, cold. We were also told, and this was delivered like it was nothing, that the prisoner had to be moved intact. That was the word. Not alive, not breathing. Intact. I logged that. My job was to log things like that. Words are instruments. Instruments notice first. Human fear comes second. We sat in that room with one dim bulb and the hum of a cheap fridge that didn't close right. The air tasted like dust from concrete and burned instant coffee. The table in front of us was covered in copies of copies. No originals, no signatures. That was not normal. We should have had paper with actual ink somewhere. We didn't. Control briefed us remote. Audio only. Filtered. No accent. No room. Tone. No breathing. You think that's dramatic. It's not. I've been in this work long enough to know what a voice sounds like when the air has to move through a throat. This voice didn't ride air. It rode carrier. It sounded like text being read by a mouth that wasn't in a room. Vega didn't blink. Rook kept looking at his spectrum screen like he was trying to catch source direction and couldn't. Control gave us coordinates for pickup and exchange. Pick up and exchange in the same sentence. That was not good. You don't do a prisoner pickup and an exchange in the same physical location unless both sides have the leverage neither side wants to move. You spread risk. You stage. You stagger the handoff so you can walk away if they cheat. This was one hole, one time slot, one ladder. That meant whatever was under there didn't want to travel. That meant we would have to go to it. I asked for chain of custody forms for the U.S. national. I asked how we were logging medical condition on transfer. I asked which consular channel was prepared to call this person received. Controls said, chain of custody will be acknowledged on exfil, not on site. That is illegal even in our world. Even in black. You sign where you take control. You don't let somebody move an American body without a signature. That's how you end up in front of a committee later with photographs on a screen and your name under them. That is how careers end in orange jumpsuits, I asked again. Mason put a hand on my forearm under the table. Squeeze, not friendly. That told me to stop talking. I want to be clear about why I still went. I had a human stake. Everyone in that room had a human stake. They select for that when they want compliance. Vega had a brother still active duty, up for discharge, flagged for psych. Mason had a kid mid-surgery window, stateside, pediatric, cardiac. Tariq had debt to a local family with ministry pull. Rook had a partner whose visa had technical issues and secondary review. Me, I had Leah. Leah wasn't my wife. She wasn't anything with paperwork. She was the one person I kept out of paperwork on purpose. We were supposed to sit down in December. I had the ring and a sock in my go bag. She didn't know that, but she knew I promised I would be out by then. Her mother's health was bad. Stage 4, bad. Leah said she couldn't start a life with me if I kept vanishing into places she couldn't even put on a map. I said 1 more quarter. I said after Q4 I would take a desk. I said I was done running assets in country. I said that. I meant it when I said it. Control knew that. Control brought her up by name. Ledger, the voice said, flat, no breath. You are clear to decline. If you decline, your extraction timeline and Leah's relocation package will both be delayed until Q2. If you accept, we will accelerate both to November. They said Leah's name. They said relocation package. Leah didn't know there was a relocation package. I hadn't told her. Only my direct line and my admin back in Langley knew about that paperwork. Not this voice, not whatever this was. My tongue went metallic when I heard it, like licking a 9-volt. Ozone in the back of the throat. I said yes. We all said yes. Rook ran one last sweep across the room. "Spectrum's wrong," he said, "getting scatter off concrete." In English, Mason said. "Walls are bouncing me," Rook said. "Like there's mass behind mass. Like we're already in a Faraday can, but we're not." Gallows laughed under his breath when he heard that. "Good," he said. "Means nobody's listening." Rook shook his head. "Means somebody built a room behind this room and didn't tell physics." That was the first hint. Not the threats. Not the missing paperwork. Not the off-book custody. The first hint that something was off was the way the instruments read the space. The spectrum didn't like the walls. The walls didn't like the spectrum. We hadn't even left staging and the building was already wrong. I have done dozens of exchanges. I have done quiet payments on bridges. I have done backdoor pardons. I have watched men throw up into their own hoods because they thought we were going to shoot them, and instead we drove them to a plane. This wasn't that. This wasn't human leverage. This wasn't even a spy swap. We were told to retrieve an American body that answered to an American call sign and did not register as alive. That's when I understood this wasn't an extraction. It was containment. We moved at 2240. We rolled in a gray Hyundai van with municipal plates and a magnetic decal for sewer inspection. Tariq said the decal was legit. He said we were Tehran Urban Flood Mitigation Response. He said nobody stops city flood during Q4 rains because if they do, and a basement drowns, somebody important loses furniture. The van smelled like bleach and diesel. Under the bleach was old rot. Wet concrete, mold, iron. Mason drove. Mason drove like he'd driven Tehran before, which told me this wasn't his first time in country despite what his file would later say. He knew where to slow for cameras. He knew which intersections had broken lights that stay broken for weeks. He knew which alleys to duck to bleed tail. He never asked Tariq for a turn until we were within 5 blocks of target. Rook sat behind him with the SDR rig open on his lap. The scanner ran silent. No speaker hiss. Just a thin coil wire leading to an improvised loop antenna taped to the van window under a trash bag. The screen showed waterfall. I've watched a lot of waterfall. You get used to what clean radio noise looks like in a city. Dirty, full, layered, hot. This wasn't that. This was blank bands where you should never see blank. Whole chunks of spectrum just missing, like somebody lifted out parts of the night. Rook kept licking his teeth and breathing. Shallow. The glow off his screen lit his face cold blue. The weather was dry. Too dry for Tehran in October. You get particulate this time of year, sure, but you still get damp in the air at night. That night felt stripped. The air tasted filtered, like hospital air through an ionizer. No street grit on the tongue, no trash burn. Even the exhaust from the other cars felt thin. Vega said she could feel static on her forearms. Fine hair rising. She rubbed at it and frowned. We had our escort unit patch taped under the decal binder. Tariq showed it once to a pair of Basi at a checkpoint off Enkalab. The patch said we belonged to Municipal Emergency Drainage District 11. The Basij kid looked 12 and held his rifle like a guitar. He let us through fast. He didn't want to log us. He didn't want his name touching us. His eyes slid off the van like oil on water. That wasn't natural either. He didn't even look in the back windows. Tehran militia always looks in the back windows. I watched street layout. We weren't heading toward any known ministry holding site. We weren't heading toward any IRGC safe basement. We weren't going toward Evin. We weren't going toward any of the ad hoc detention flats the police use when they don't want paperwork. We were going toward an older neighborhood with mixed residential and light industrial, pre-rev plumbing, lots of illegal retrofits. That screamed tunnel work. That screamed legacy infrastructure. We were going to ground. Mason parked us in a narrow service lane beside a cinder block wall tagged with old protest paint half scraped. Gallows checked the corner with a handheld thermal monocular. The monocular hummed low. I could hear it. That hum sat high in my teeth. I tasted battery metal and warm dust. "Clear," Gallows said. "Define clear," I said. "No live bodies within 20 meters besides us," he said. "Dogs?" Vega asked. He squinted at the screen. "No mammals, no birds, no rats, nothing warm. Cities don't do that. Cities crawl. You always catch stray cats, junkies, late-shift smokers, somebody. We had nothing, just heat from our own faces and a light bleed from a transformer box humming behind the wall." The transformer hum rattled through my shoes. Vega rolled the van door open. Air hit us like basement air. Wet concrete, old rust, coolant. But the street was dry. The street stayed bone-dry and dusted. The mismatch made my stomach clench. "Instruments first, boys and girls," Rook whispered. We moved fast. No chatter. Mason up front. Gallows next with the torch. Me center. Vega behind me with her med rig. Rook behind her, hunched over his gear like it was a baby. Tariq last, loose, scanning corners like he was just a bored city worker there to yell at whoever dumped trash. Our target point on the handheld GPS said we were already there before we even touched the wall. That was its own problem. Mason held up his wrist unit. "We there?" he asked. "We're on top of it," Rook said. "On top of what?" Mason said. Rook shook his head. "On top of a void." I looked where the GPS arrow pointed. I saw cinder block, spray paint, an illegal power tap, and 2 plastic trash bins with no lids. Old food oil in the bottom. You could smell it. Rancid. Sweet. I didn't see an entrance. Tariq knocked twice on the cinder block like he was knocking on an apartment door. He didn't knock high. He knocked low. Knee height. Then he stepped back and stood casual. For a second, nothing. Then my radio clicked once in my ear. Here's the important part. My radio was off. I don't mean volume low, I mean physically off. Battery pack rotated to safe. I hadn't powered it yet because we were still blue side above ground and I wasn't going to light us up on an open band. But I heard a click. Clear as a trigger break. In my ear. Vega heard it too. I saw her flinch. She reached for her earpiece even though she wasn't running one yet. She looked at me. I looked at her. Instruments first. The wall opened at knee level. That's the only way I can say it. No hinge, no visible seam. Cinder block shifted inward and down like it had been poured around a hatch that did not match its era. Stale air rolled up and out. Warm, wet, metallic. I tasted old coins. Mason crouched and lifted the panel the rest of the way with gloved fingers. The concrete edge steamed in the cold air. Little curls of vapor came off like we'd popped an oven. The panel shouldn't have been warm. The night wasn't cold enough to steam anything. The math didn't check. Under the panel sat a narrow concrete throat with a steel ladder bolted in. The ladder wasn't Iranian industrial standard. It wasn't metric spacing. It looked naval. Dark, pitted, overbuilt. I knew that look. Old submarine hardware, Soviet style. Gallows muttered the same thing under his breath. "Project 641 ladder," he said. "That's Cold War." This was Tehran, not Murmansk, but we had a Soviet submarine ladder sunk vertical into a storm drain throat that wasn't on any municipal plan. We hadn't even gone down yet, and nothing made sense. The air from below carried a low rhythm. Not a chant. Chant has human breath in it. This didn't. This was more like a carrier tone that dipped and rose just outside audible comfort. It made my molars ache. It wasn't language, but it felt like intent. Rook swallowed. "Signal's bending," he whispered. "Meaning?" Mason asked. "It's trying to handshake with my rig," Rook said. "But it's not on RF." "Then what is it on?" I said. Rook shook his head. "Wait." That didn't help. We were ahead of schedule. That part mattered because Control had stressed the window. "You will enter at 22:55 local," Control had said. "You will present at 23:11 local. You will depart at 23:19 local with stabilized asset in tow." Exact minute marks. You only get timing like that in nuclear work, where half-lives and cooling curves matter, or in things that pretend to be nuclear work. We were early by 6 minutes. "Clock check," Mason said. 22:49, Vega said. "Good," Mason said. "We're in early. We set the table." "Who's down there now?" I asked. "Receiving party," Mason said. "Which is?" I asked. "Doesn't matter," he said. It mattered. He slung his carbine. He didn't shoulder it. He slung it muzzle down on a single point. He didn't want anyone below to see a barrel first. That told me this was still being sold as diplomatic, not kinetic. We were supposed to look like handlers, not raiders. Gallows slid down first. He clipped a line to the ladder and dropped with his torch on his back. His boots hit something metal, maybe 4-5 seconds later. Not far, I thought. Then the echo came back late. Too late for that distance. Like the air column kinked somewhere under us. Delay where there shouldn't be delay. Vega grimaced. "Pressure's off," she said. "Ears?" I asked. "Sinuses," she said. "Like we're already 30 meters down." We weren't. We were still kneeling on Tehran pavement. I turned my head and spat. My spit hit the cinder block and came back stringy like it didn't want to let go. It tasted like iron filings. Ozone sat high in my nose. The streetlight above us flickered. The flicker wasn't random. On, off, in a repeating cadence. 3 fast, 1 slow. 3 fast, 1 slow. A pattern like knock-knock codes. We had not announced ourselves. Something below already knew we were here. "Let's go," Mason said, and that was how we began approach. In a dry Tehran alley that tasted like coolant, standing over a Soviet submarine ladder hidden in a city drain that didn't map to any coordinates, 6 minutes ahead of an exchange we hadn't negotiated, while our radios clicked from the off position. We went down. I descended third, after Gallows and Mason. The ladder metal felt warm through my gloves, not body warm, machine warm, the way a generator casing holds heat. I counted rungs. The spacing was old-school naval, wider than OSHA, harsher on knees. My boots slid once on something oily, then bit. The first 10 feet still smelled like street dust. After that, Tehran went away. Heat came up in uneven waves, not convection like a boiler. Pulses. You'd get warm face, warm face, like someone was cycling a giant exhale up the shaft. My teeth hurt. My left ear popped like we were in a descent, not a climb. Vega hissed behind me. "Pressure shift," she whispered. "I don't like that." We hit first platform fast, but the echo lag said we'd dropped farther. That platform was a poured ring of concrete with rebar ribs showing through places where the formwork hadn't matched. The concrete wasn't Iranian mix. Too smooth, too dense, too gray. Looked like high-pressure pour. Looked like bunker work. There were symbols burned into it. Let me say that right. The marks weren't painted. They weren't carved. The concrete itself at the surface was blackened in repeating shapes, like someone had pressed a hot brand into it at full cure. The shapes weren't letters. They weren't Arabic. They weren't Cyrillic. They looked like geometry that had been folded, then partially unfolded, then forced flat. Every time my eyes tried to track one all the way around, my vision jumped. My stomach flipped. Vega gagged behind me. "Don't look long," Gallows said. "They said not to look long." "Who said that?" I asked. "Receiving," he said, like that answered anything. The hum was louder here. It wasn't coming from a vent or a motor. It was in the concrete. You could feel it through your boots. High, fast, like a transformer coil under strain. My molars buzzed. Ozone hit the back of my throat. The air tasted ionized, metallic, like licking a 9-volt in winter. Mason raised a hand for quiet even though none of us were talking. He pointed down the next shaft. No ladder this time. Just a rectangular drop with a steel cable lift platform waiting. The platform was a welded grid with side rails and an old Soviet-era crank housing bolted to one corner. The crank housing had Farsi numbers stenciled on fresh white paint. The metal under the paint was not fresh. It was scarred, pitted, old. Decades old. Wrong-era parts grafted together. Tariq slid down last and stepped onto the ring. He wouldn't look at the burned symbols. He kept his eyes on his own boots. "This is not municipal," he whispered. "Thank you," Mason said dry. Rook's rig chimed then, soft, like a muted alarm. He yanked it against his chest and shielded the screen like someone could see it. "We're getting return," he whispered. "From who?" I asked. "From below," he said. "We haven't transmitted," I said. "I know," he said. The lift platform waited with its gate open like a mouth. No operator, no visible cable movement. Just there, like it knew the timing. I checked my watch. 22:56. We were still early for control's window. "Mask up," Vega said. "We're not on chem," Mason said. "Didn't say chem," she said. She pulled a slim filter mask from her kit and snapped it over her face. Not NBC gear, just particulate with a microfilter stack. "Air's wrong," she said through it. "I don't want whatever this is in my lungs." I followed her lead. The mask tasted like clean plastic and my own breath. Better than ion burn. We loaded onto the platform. Weight shifted. The surface flexed under gallows like it wanted to sag and then decided not to. The rails hummed. No one touched the crank. The drop started. Here is the part where it went from off to not possible. The rate of descent didn't match the sound. You know what it feels like when an elevator lowers. Your stomach stays put. Your knees take a little. Float. You hear cable. You feel drum. Here, my stomach climbed into my throat like we were falling fast, but the walls moved past us slow. Too slow. The hum in the rails climbed high, then went sub-bass. My vision stuttered in the corners like old video buffering. Vega squeezed her eyes shut and dug her fingers into the rail so hard her knuckles went white under the glove. "It's just drop," Mason said. Calm. Rehearsed calm. "Then why aren't we passing floors?" Rook whispered. "We should have seen service tunnels. Access doors, conduit ports. Tehran is full of old water, old power, old telecom. There's always something. We saw poured concrete so smooth it looked like polished stone. No seams, no joints. Every few meters there were those same burned-in marks, repeating like station labels on a subway map. They made my eyes water. 30 meters, Vega whispered. She wasn't looking. She just said it. Ears say 30. We had not been moving long enough for 30 vertical meters. The platform stopped like it hit bone. Air rolled in. Wet, heavy, warm. It smelled like coolant spill on hot copper. It hit the inside of my mask and made my tongue taste like coins again. My left ear went muffled, then came back with a pop. We faced a door. Calling it a door isn't right. It was a hatch, naval style. Oval, thick, with a locking wheel in the center and radial dogs around the rim. The metal had that matte, layered look of Soviet submarine steel, the old stuff they overbuilt to survive depth crush. But someone had taken a grinder to the face of it and cut deep lines in a grid, then filled those cuts with something dark and glassy. The glassy inlay pulsed low, like embers under ash. The wheel had fresh hand oil on it, human prints. Recent. You could smell skin salt under the coolant stink. There was heat bleeding from the seam. You could see shimmer in the air, but the metal felt cold when I put my glove on it. The physics didn't track. Hot air out, cold skin under my palm. From the other side came that same carrier tone we'd heard up top, only clearer now, closer. It ran steady for a few seconds, then pulsed in a pattern. 3 fast, 1 slow. 3 fast, 1 slow. Same cadence as the flicker in the alley light. It wasn't speech. It still felt like being spoken to. Tariq swallowed. "They're ready," he said. "They," I said. He didn't answer. Mason nodded to Gallows. Gallows stepped forward, put both hands on the wheel, and tried to turn. The wheel didn't want to move. He grunted. Muscles in his neck jumped. The rail under my hand buzzed with the strain. Sparks spat from one of the radial dogs, and here's the part that made Vega cuss under her breath. They didn't fall right. The sparks popped out bright and then died mid-air. Not faded. Died. Gone. Like the air past a certain point wouldn't let combustion live in it. Like fire hit a wall. You don't kill sparks in open air. Not like that. Not at this oxygen level. Gallows leaned in harder, and the wheel finally gave. The hatch groaned. The tone on the other side shifted. Just a hair. It felt like a tension. Warm, wet air washed over us. It carried a smell like iron filings and hospital disinfectant left too long in a mop bucket. Old blood and bleach. The light beyond wasn't white. It wasn't yellow. It was something in between that made depth hard to judge. My eyes watered again. Mason raised his fist. "Guns down," he said. "We're not here to start a fight." "I didn't bring a gun for a fight," Gallows muttered. "I brought a gun for respect." We stepped through the hatch, and that was where reality bent. The corridor beyond the hatch was wrong in scale. My brain kept trying to call it service tunnel, but service tunnels don't have ceilings that high. The light made it worse. It came from embedded strips in the walls, but not LED. Not fluorescent, not filament. The strips had a dull internal glow, like heated ceramic, and they pulsed slow, like breath. Warm, cool warm. Each pulse sent a little pressure through my sinuses. The floor was poured concrete, smooth as hospital tile, but it wasn't level. It dipped and rose in shallow waves, like we were walking across something soft that had been frozen mid-shift. Every rise had those burned-in symbols, rings and lines and angles that almost made sense and then didn't. I tried to follow one with my eyes and got a headache behind my left temple. Vega put a hand on my shoulder to steady herself. Her glove left a faint smear on the concrete. The smear smoked for a second, then was gone. "Don't touch the floor," she whispered. "Kinda late," I said. The air tasted ionized and metallic, like storm air in a server room. My mouth went dry. My tongue felt too big. I could smell hot dust, ozone, coolant. My skin prickled under the filter mask. Our radios all showed green. Connection solid. I tapped my throat mic. Check. No response. Check, I said again, louder. Still nothing. Mason looked back at me and shook his head. He tapped his own ear. Thumb down. Dead. The displays said, live. The sound said no. Cameras next. Rook had a body cam patched to a solid-state recorder on his chest. The little red record LED glowed steady. I waved a hand in front of it. He watched the monitor feed on his wrist. The feed showed me moving. I snapped my fingers. He nodded. Then he froze. "What?" Mason said. "It's not saving," Rook whispered. "How do you know?" I asked. "I just scrubbed back 5 seconds," he said. "It's looping. It's watch only. It's not writing." "Buffering?" Vega asked. "No," he said. "It's behaving like it's recording. Storage indicators ticking down. But the block map's clean. Nothing's imprinting." His voice shook now. "It's watching, but it's not remembering." That sat in my spine like ice. Eyes with no memory. Witness with no record. That is built on purpose. We moved. At 12 meters in, my compass drifted. I keep a simple analog clipped inside my vest. I don't trust digital bearings alone. The needle swung 30 degrees east with no turn in the hall. It pulsed back, then slid again. It did it in sync with the wall light pulses. Warm, cool, warm. Needle, twitch, twitch, hold. The building had its own north. Instruments first, Rook whispered. Instruments hate this. We reached a junction. The corridor opened into a chamber about the size of a small gymnasium, only the proportions made no sense. Corners didn't meet where they should. A wall on the left looked 20 feet away until you tried to focus on it. Then it felt like 4 feet, then 8, then 20 again. My head swam. I swallowed nausea. And there, across the chamber, we saw it move. I am going to be precise here. Precise protects you from sounding like you've lost it. Precision keeps this usable in a hearing. There were footsteps, heel to toe, human cadence, slow, deliberate, controlled. The weight in the steps sounded like a person around 80 kilos, maybe 85, in soft soles. You learn that in this work. You can tell weight by step report. The walk had balance, no limp, no drag. There was no shadow with those steps. We should have seen a shadow cast from the floor glow. We didn't. We saw a human outline in motion with no corresponding dark on the ground. Then, for a second, we did see shadow, but it was wrong. The legs moved and the shadow legs didn't line up with them, like two exposures laid wrong, like frames out of sync. The figure passed behind one of those poured concrete rises and didn't come out the other side in the right place. It phased. Not fast, not blink. Just misaligned. Half a step offset from geometry. Vega inhaled hard. It sounded like a sob and a gasp at once. "Stay tight," Mason said. His voice was low, calm, way too calm. Rehearsed calm. Gallows slid his hand toward his sidearm. "Guns down," Mason snapped. "You see that?" Gallows whispered. "Yes," Mason said. "Guns down." The figure stopped just inside our comfortable visual range. It stayed turned away, like it wanted us to see outline but not face. The shoulders rose and fell like breath. Slow, measured, performative. "Is that our guy?" I whispered. "No," Mason said. "How do you know?" I asked. "Because ours is restrained," he said. "Control said restrained. That thing's loose." The thing cocked its head when he said thing, like it heard and had an opinion. The hum in the walls changed pitch. The burned-in symbols on the floor around us seemed to darken. Just a shade. I could feel pressure between my eyes now, pushing back, like a thumb. Then my left eye watered, and in the blur, I saw something else. For a moment, less than a blink, less than a full heartbeat, I saw Leah. She was standing where that figure stood. Same height, same hair, same tilt of the jaw when she was about to tell me I was being stupid. She wore the gray sweater she always stole from me, the soft one, the one with the frayed sleeve. Her eyes were locked on mine. Her mouth moved. There was no sound. Then she was gone, and the figure was back. Same posture, same position, no shadow. I stumbled. Vega grabbed my arm. "You okay?" she whispered. "No," I said. "Do you need out?" she asked. "No," I said, because I couldn't need out. Because Leah was the thing they had on me. Because if I said I needed out, they'd call me compromised and cut me loose, and my leverage on Leah's relocation would go to zero. We pushed on. The hallway past the chamber narrowed again, then opened into a set of descending steps poured in, that same too smooth concrete. Symbols burned into every third riser. The hum got louder. The pulse in the walls synced with my heartbeat. Or my heartbeat synced with it. Hard to tell. My radio clicked again in my dead ear. "Ledger," a voice said. Leah's voice. "Ledger," it said again. "Baby, listen." I tore my earpiece out. I wanted to throw it. I didn't. I shoved it in a pocket. My hands shook. My mouth tasted like blood and aluminum. Ozone stung my nose. "Everything okay?" Mason asked without looking back. "It's using her voice." I whispered. "It'll do that," he said, like he'd heard that briefing, like he knew, like this was not first contact. Rook was breathing fast now. "My rig just timestamped tomorrow," he whispered. "What?" Vega said. "It jumped," Rook said. "Local timestamp just advanced 26 hours on its own and then rolled back. It thinks we're already in the future, and then it thinks we're not." "Log it," Mason said. "It's not logging," Rook said. We kept moving down. The steps ended at another hatch. This one was bigger, thicker. The steel wasn't submarine gray. It was old bronze, greened at the edges, like a temple door someone had dragged through salt water and welded to modern hinges. English words were stenciled across the face in white industrial paint, block letters, all caps. Damascus Protocol, authorized handlers only. Do not breach without stabilization. Field lock. The paint was fresh. The bronze under it was ancient. I ran my glove over the word Damascus. The metal under the paint thrummed like a live transformer. Mason exhaled. "We present," he said. "Present how?" I asked. My voice sounded thin in my own ears. "Hands open," he said. "Weapons down, eyes forward, mouth shut." "What are we presenting to?" Vega asked. Mason didn't answer. He spun the wheel. The hatch opened. Heat rolled over us. Wet heat. Reactor heat. The air hit my mask and fogged it for a second. Then the filter cleared. My skin prickled like standing too close to an open panel in a nuclear plant. I've done containment drills at nuclear sites. I know that flavor. It's sharp. It's metallic. It crawls up the back of your throat and leaves copper. This was that, and something under it. Something like old blood. We stepped through into the machine temple. The chamber wasn't big enough to hold what was in it. That's the first thing. The room should have been maybe 20 meters across, circular, with poured concrete walls and reinforcement ribs like a fallout shelter. That's what my eyes said when I looked quick, but the machines inside it didn't fit that geometry. They stacked and wound and interlocked in vertical arrays that should have hit the ceiling, but didn't. They just kept going. You could see the tops, but you couldn't make your brain accept the distance. Like looking down a long mirror tunnel, only this was up. Old metal everywhere. Bronze, copper, something like iron but blacker, duller, rough cast and pitted with age. The surfaces had the hand-worn look of ritual tools. Grooves where fingers had gripped over and over. Curves polished by skin. But those same surfaces were bolted into modern conduit, cabling, fiber. You could see orange Home Depot extension cord zip-tied to something that looked like it belonged in a museum. You could see a stainless steel control rack with English labels feeding into a carved stone plinth shot through with hairline veins of dull red light. The air vibrated. Not loud. Low. Constant. You feel it more than hear it. Like standing next to an industrial turbine. Your bones pick it up. Your teeth buzz. You taste hot copper. You smell coolant and ion burn, and that undersmell of old blood baked dry. Against the far wall, if far means anything when distance won't sit still, there were 3 vertical frames that looked like medical gantries. Stainless arms, restraint cuffs, IV poles. The arms were bolted not to hospital rails but to carved pillars of black stone. The stone had symbols worked into it. Those same, not quite geometric marks burned in shallow and glossy like obsidian inlay. In the center of the room sat the core. It looked like an altar built by an engineer. A low, wide block of ancient bronze, green at the seams, square corners softened by centuries of hands. On top of it, a cage of modern alloy bars, welded clean, with braided cabling running out in bundles as thick as my wrist. The braided cabling vanished into conduit that disappeared into walls that shouldn't have had space for conduit. The cables hummed. The hum wasn't random. It pulsed in triads: bind, contain, awaken, bind, contain, awaken. I don't have better language for that. The pulses hit like meaning. You felt the order. Painted across the front face of the bronze in fresh white industrial stencil were the same words we saw on the hatch. Damascus Protocol. Below that, smaller, stabilization. Field lock active. Below that, smaller still, almost an afterthought. N-particle anchor coupled due. Not decouple under load. My throat went dry. That's nuclear language, I whispered. Yeah, Vega said. Anchor, I said. Yeah, she said again, voice low. They're using radiation like a nail. It clicked for me then, in a way I didn't like. They weren't using nuclear output for power. They were using it for geometry. They were pinning something in place with neutron flux the way you'd pin a butterfly with steel. They were using decay curves as a leash. The air near the core shimmered. Heat distortion, but not just heat. The lines of the cage blurred, doubled, slid, like you were looking at it through water. The blur had depth. You could almost see layers, rooms behind rooms, corners behind corners, the outline of another space touching ours at an angle that made my stomach drop. My mask tasted like plastic and copper. My head pounded behind the eyes. Mason stepped forward with his hands open, palms out. He bowed his head like he was in church. This hard man with taped wrist and JSOC posture bowed his head. Control, he said. Handler package present. Something moved behind the core. Not fast, slow, careful, like someone waking up in a hospital bed and checking their tubes. I saw a hand first, human size, human shape, 5 fingers, skin tone like someone who'd been indoors too long, too pale for Iran, too pale for months in detention with no sun. The skin looked flat. No capillary bloom, no life under it. Plastic, almost. Wax. Then I saw the cuff. Stainless steel restraint cuff around the wrist. U.S. manufacture. I know the model. I've cuffed men into those exact transport loops on rendition flights. The serial block on the metal had been ground down, but the weld marks were ours. American. Then the rest of him leaned forward into view. Gray hood, black gag strap across the mouth, orange jumpsuit, but not Iranian prison orange. Our orange. Stateside federal orange. The cut was Bureau of Prisons, not local. Stenciled across the chest in block letters, U.S. property. Under that, a call sign I will not repeat. He moved like a man who'd been sedated hard and was coming back. Slow, heavy. Every motion cost, but his chest didn't rise. No inhale, no exhale. No ribs spread. His torso stayed flat. The thermal strip taped over his sternum. A cheap, disposable status strip like you slap on trauma cases in the field should have glowed bright yellow-green under any kind of perfusion. It sat dead black, like electrical tape. Vega sucked in air hard through her filter. Her hands trembled. "Vital scan," Mason said. Calm. Rehearsed calm. Vega swallowed. "On it." She stepped forward with her handheld monitor. The monitor whined when she powered it. High, keening like a mosquito in your ear. The little LCD flickered, rolled, stabilized. She pressed 2 contact pads against the prisoner's neck, just under the jaw. The man's head turned toward her like his neck bones. Didn't have resistance. Too smooth. Too easy. Vega flinched but held contact. "Perfusion?" Mason asked. Vega stared at the screen. "No?" "No what?" I asked. "No perfusion," she whispered. "No hemoglobin saturation, no CO2 exchange, no metabolic burn. It's reading colder than room." "Cuff temp?" Mason said. "Cuffs warmer than skin," she said. "Brain activity?" Mason said. Vega swallowed. "Yes." The hum in the cables pulsed. Bind, contain, awaken. I felt sweat run down my spine under the vest. It felt cold and hot at the same time. "This is not possible," I said. "It wasn't alive," Vega whispered. "It was anchored." The hooded head turned toward me. The gag strap flexed. The mouth under it moved. Slow, delayed, like playback running at a fraction of normal speed. The jaw opened and closed in a pattern. Word shapes. I could see it even through the fabric. My name. It said my name. It said Ledger. The mouth moved first. The sound came after like bad sync. Half a beat late. A dry, cracked whisper that should have needed air to push it. It didn't. Ledger, it said. Baby, listen. Leah's voice. My legs almost gave. I reached for the core cage without thinking. Vega slapped my hand away, hard. Don't touch the field, she hissed. You'll couple. Couple what? I whispered. Yourself, she said. The hooded head twitched. The whole body shook once like a machine clearing a jam. The gag strap creaked against teeth. Then, in a voice that wasn't Leah, in a voice that sounded like gravel in a drain pipe, it spoke again. The delay dropped. The sync tightened. The cadence went flat, like recitation. Custody, transfer, initiated, it said. Present handlers acknowledge receipt of stabilized asset. Damascus Protocol class, per bilateral containment compact. Present handlers accept memory debt and time debt. Present handlers accept field lock burden. Present handlers do not breach anchor. Present handlers do not sever conduit. Present handlers do not release secondary mass. Present handlers do not break triad. Bind, contain, awaken. My skin crawled. What is time debt? Rook whispered. No one answered him. The hooded head snapped toward Mason like a dog catching a scent. Fast, precise. Too fast for sedated muscles. Mason didn't flinch. He looked like a man who'd practiced not flinching in front of this exact thing. Authorized, Mason said quietly. Handler package present. The hood twitched like a nod. Record acceptance, it said. We can't record, Rook whispered. The hum in the cables climbed. The bronze block under the cage glowed faint at the seams, like something deep inside was flexing against the bars. The pulse in the walls sped up. My heartbeat synced whether I wanted it or not. Sweat ran cold into my eyes. Salt burned. This is where you make the deal, Mason said. What deal? I said. My voice sounded thin in my own ears. Mason looked at me. His eyes were flat. You take him up, he said. You take him out. You keep him intact. You don't ask questions in transit. You don't remove restraints. You don't break the field lock. You deliver him to control. Control clears Leah. My throat closed. Control clears Leah, he repeated like he was reading from a script. I stared at the hooded head. It stared back. No breath. No pulse. Brain activity. Mouth delay. Leah's voice. You asked me later why I didn't run. Where would I have run? The cables hummed. The core pulsed. The air tasted like burned copper and old prayer. The thing in restraints raised its head. The hood shifted. I could see the outline of a face under the fabric now. Cheekbone, jaw, mouth working slow around the gag strap. The gag strap flexed like something behind it was pushing against it from too many angles at once. It didn't strain like a prisoner. It adjusted like a machine testing range. Handler, it said. Voice flat. Voice wrong. Words landing on delay, then catching up. We speak now. Mason took one step closer, hands still open, palms out. He kept his carbine slung and pointed at the floor. We're here, he said. The head tilted, like it was listening to more than just him. It felt like the whole chamber leaned in with it. The cable's hum dropped low. The pulse in the walls slowed. The air pressure shifted. My ears popped again. Ozone stung my throat. Containment remains stable under Damascus Protocol, it said. Anchor holds. Field lock engaged. Leakage minimal. Threshold breach at 3%. Triad intact. The cadence was clinical. A status readout. Not mystic. Not ritual. Engineering. What's trying to breach? Rook whispered. The hood turned toward Rook. Rook shut up. Human presence sustains lock, it said. Human attention sustains lock. Human memory sustains lock. Human time sustains lock. The head twitched with each word. like speech cost calibration cycles. This mass remains bound because you agree to see it. This mass remains bound because you agree to remember it. This mass remains bound because you agree to pay the cost of time. Define time, Vega said. Her voice shook, but she still asked. That was Vega. She wanted parameters. The hood angled toward her. Debt will be assigned, it said. You will be notified of specific loss. What loss? She asked. Years, it said. My stomach flipped. Hot, then cold. You mean we die early? Gallows said. Payment is variable, it said. Some assets lose years from end. Some assets lose years from middle. Some assets lose years from others. Redistribution maintains lock. I felt sick. My skin went clammy under the vest. Sweat ran down my ribs and cooled fast. Some assets lose years from others, Vega repeated. Say that again. Unauthorized repetition request denied, it said. This is a deal, Mason said quietly. Make the deal. Clock is live. What are we containing? I asked. The hooded head twitched. The gag strap groaned. I heard teeth under it grind like ceramic on metal. This mass, it said. This signature. This breach pressure. This hunger. This will. You do not have direct language. Closest, in cursive geometry with predatory bias. Predatory, Rook whispered. Yes, it said. On who? Rook whispered. On human chronology, it said. The air felt thin. I couldn't get a full breath even through the filter mask. My chest felt tight. Static crawled up my scalp. So, we hold the door shut, Gallows said. That's the job. Yes, it said. And the payment is our time, he said. Yes, it said. And if we walk away? Mason asked. The hood turned toward Mason. The pause between mouth and voice shortened. The sync tightened. The thing was calibrating to us in real time, learning, locking in. If you walk away, it said, anchor load redistributes uncontrolled. Field lock degrades. Triad breaks. Threshold opens. Breach pressure exits containment. Human chronology destabilizes. Local geometry detaches. City loss estimate complete. Define city loss, Vega whispered. This site and all proximal population centers erased from continuous time stream, it said. No survivors. No memory outside triad. Gap will appear as absence. Rationalized post hoc by remaining chronology networks. Phrases you will use include gas main, terror cell, natural disaster, classified. My blood went cold. Tehran disappears, Rook whispered. Yes, it said. And nobody remembers Tehran existed, he said. Correct, it said. Rook laughed. Short. Ugly. That's not how memory works, he said. The hooded head did that slight tilt again, like listening to something we couldn't hear. You believe memory is stored in your tissue, it said. You are incorrect. Memory is stored in continuity of reference between observers. Continuity can be cut and resealed. Your science has not yet admitted this. Ours has. Ours, not yours. Ours. You're not him, I said. My voice came out low. The hood turned toward me. You're not the man in that jumpsuit, I said. Silence. Who are you? I said. It didn't answer right away. The cables hummed. The bronze block under the cage glowed faint, like something deep inside was flexing against the bars. The pulse in the walls sped up. My heartbeat synced whether I wanted it or not. Sweat ran cold into my eyes. Salt burned. I'm what is holding the other side shut, it said at last. Is the original still in there? I asked. I nodded at the orange. The man, the asset, the American, is he still in there? Yes, it said. Alive? Vega asked. Silence. Define alive, it said. Vega closed her eyes. What happens to us after we take you up? Mason asked. His tone went clipped. Mission tone. The hood shifted. I could see movement under the fabric like too many tendons pulling in different directions. The gag strap creaked. "You will transport stabilized asset to Control," it said. "Control will assume field lock and memory debt. Control will assign time debt. Control will brief successors. You will be processed. You will be tagged. You will be placed." "Placed?" Rook whispered. "Yes," it said. "Placed where?" he said. "In positions of ongoing proximity to breach sites," it said. Rook shook his head. "No, no way. I'm SIGINT. I'm not Containment." "You are now," it said. Vega swallowed. "What about my brother?" The hood twitched toward her. "Name?" it said. She gave it. "Cleared," it said. Vega exhaled like she'd been punched. Gallows leaned in. "What about Mason's kid?" he said. Mason shot him a look that could cut steel. The hood turned toward Mason anyway. "Pediatric cardiac stabilization approved," it said. "Surgical resource allocation cleared. Complication risk reduced by 48%. No mortality flag." Mason's jaw worked. His eyes stayed flat. "And Ledger?" Gallows asked. My throat locked. I wanted to tell him to shut up. I couldn't get the words out. The hood angled toward me. I could feel it through the fabric. Attention like a weight. Cold, precise. The delay between its mouth and its voice was gone now. We had given it enough sample. It had synced to us. "Leah relocation approved," it said. "Her mother's prognosis extended 9 months. Relocation advanced to November. Domestic cover package prepared. You will not accompany." My stomach dropped. "What?" I whispered. "You will not accompany," it repeated. "Your placement will not allow cohabitation. Your timeline will diverge. Your contribution is memory and time. Your debt will be collected at source. She will be reassigned narrative closure." Narrative closure. Like my life was a paragraph in her file. I felt empty. Light. My fingers went numb. Gallows swore under his breath. Quiet. Ugly. "That's the price," he said. "Yes," it said. "And if we refuse?" he asked. "City loss," it said. We stood there, 6 of us under Tehran, in a room that hummed like a reactor and looked like a temple wired to a substation. We stood in front of something wearing an American jumpsuit and speaking like an intake form for a god that did math. We stood with sweat running cold and the taste of ozone in our throats. Mason nodded once. Slow. Formal. "Handler package accepts," he said. I heard myself say it too. "I accept." Vega whispered it. "I accept." Rook choked it out. "I accept." Gallows grunted it. "Yeah, fine, I accept." Tariq didn't speak. He just bowed his head. The hooded thing tilted, like that satisfied some condition we couldn't see. "Debt assigned," it said. The cables hummed hard. The air pressure spiked. My ears blew out and came back with a ring. The bronze block under the cage flashed like something inside it struck the bars. "Lock will transfer on breach," it said. "What breach?" Vega asked. That was when the alarm started. The first alarm wasn't sound. It was geometry. The far wall, if you can call any direction far in a room that refuses to hold still, bent. I don't mean it cracked or broke. I mean it bent like soft plastic. The corner where wall met floor lifted, peeled up like skin, and folded inward. There was space behind it, and that space wasn't this room. Heat blasted out of the fold. Wet, heavy heat with an undersmell like meat gone sweet. The air shimmered. The pulsing hum in the cables jumped to a harsh, ragged buzz. The triad rhythm, bind, contain, awaken, broke. Now it was just awaken, awaken, awaken. "Stabilize," the hooded thing snapped. No delay now. Full sync. Command tone. The bronze block under the cage flared. The glow in its seams went white-hot. The cables thrummed like power lines in a storm. The pressure in my skull spiked so hard I saw white. My nose started bleeding. Warm copper taste flooded my mouth and cut through the filter mask. I spat and watched the spit hang in the air too long before gravity remembered it. The folded wall tore wider. Reality on the other side didn't line up. Angles didn't meet at 90. The floor beyond sloped up and down at the same time. Light bled through like liquid. Colors I couldn't name. The air over there moved in slow waves like underwater footage. Something moved in it. Field lock degrading, the hooded thing said. Calm. Always calm. Threshold breach at 11%. Anchor load spiking. Fix it, Mason snapped. Anchor load cannot stabilize without redistribution, it said. Redistribute, he said. You have already accepted, it said. That was when the room doubled. I don't mean we saw reflections. I mean copies of us flickered into existence at wrong angles. Vega stood where Vega already stood, but 6 inches to the left and turned 40 degrees off, like 2 video layers misaligned. Her copy moved a half-second late, mouth open in a scream I couldn't hear. Gallows appeared 3 feet to my right with his gun up even though the real Gallows still had his down. Mason's copy faced the wrong direction, watching a door that didn't exist. The copies flickered, then held, then stuttered like bad connection. Rook lost it. He spun, grabbing at air. No, 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 he said. We're not supposed to be duplicated. You can't duplicate secure handlers. That's breach of chain. That's breach of chain. He fired. He didn't mean to. His finger just went where panic took it. His pistol barked once. The muzzle flash lit the chamber white. The bullet did not behave like a bullet. It left the muzzle and hit the air in front of us like gel. It slowed. It bent. It curved. It trailed a filament of glowing metal like pulled taffy. At the curve point, it sprouted. Tiny petals. For 1 impossible second, I watched a 9mm round unfold into something like a flower, delicate and sharp and metallic, spinning in place. Then it vanished. No sound, no impact. Gone. Do not discharge, the hooded thing said. Ballistic paths destabilize lock. No kidding, Gallows muttered. The tear in the wall pulsed. I saw movement inside it. Limbs, too many joints, light bending wrong around edges like heat above a grill. I heard something, but it wasn't sound. It was an idea. It hit like memory. Not mine. Somebody else's. I was 6 years old. I was hiding under a table while 2 adults yelled in the kitchen. I could smell spilled beer. I could hear a clock ticking too loud. I could feel my own heart in my throat. I tasted salt and metal and fear. Then the memory snapped off. I was back in the chamber with blood running from my nose and my heart racing like I'd just sprinted. The thing in the breach had pushed that into my head. It didn't talk. It injected. It tried again. This time, it wasn't a memory. It was a countdown. Not numbers, just the shape of a countdown. The feeling of running out. Anchor load critical, the hooded thing said. Redistribution begins. I felt something tear inside me. Not flesh, not muscle. Deeper, like someone reached into my timeline and pulled. I gasped. My vision dimmed at the edges. Cold flooded my hands. My knees almost buckled. Vega screamed. Not fear. Pain. A raw, animal sound. She dropped to one knee, clutching her chest. No, she gasped. No, 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 you can't take... She went silent. Mouth still open. Sound gone. Like someone hit mute on her. Her copy on the wrong angle overlay kept screaming for a half-second longer, then winked out. Gallows stumbled back. His left arm jerked like someone had yanked it. He looked down and swore. His sleeve hung flat past his elbow. His forearm, from just below the joint to the wrist, was gone. Not cut, not torn. Just missing. The sleeve ended in smooth, sealed skin. No blood, no stump, just a blank curve where bone and muscle should have been. What the... He started. He didn't finish. He went pale and dropped to the floor. His eyes rolled back white for a second, then snapped forward. His mouth moved. Words came out, not his voice. Anchor stabilized, he said in a flat tone that wasn't Gallows. Lock at 61%. Threshold breach rolled back to 7%. Local geometry partially restored. Time debt allocation in progress. Then he gasped in his own voice. "My arm," he choked. "Where's my arm?" The tear in the wall shrank, then fought back, then shrank again like something was pushing from our side, and something was pushing back from the other. The air shimmered. The cables screamed. The bronze block under the cage glowed white-hot. The room smelled like hot copper and burned meat. Mason grabbed the hooded thing by the jumpsuit collar. "We're leaving," he said. "Now. Transfer now." "Field lock must transfer to portable state," it said. Calm. Always calm. "Containment cannot be maintained at current anchor load without mobile human proximity. You will accept asset. You will exit site. We will close behind you. You will not look back." "I can't carry him and cover," Mason said. "You will," it said. It jerked once against the restraints. The stainless cuffs snapped like cheap plastic. The sound they made wasn't right. It wasn't metal on metal. It was like someone cracking ice in a glass. The hooded thing stood. It moved like a marionette cut loose from some strings and pulled tight by others. Too smooth, too direct. No wasted sway. The cables running from the bronze block to the cage strained. Sparks popped and died midair. The core hummed like a transformer at overload. "Anchor load is migrating," it said. "Field lock is coupling. Time debt is assigned. If you do not exit now, city loss will proceed." "Move," Mason snapped. We moved. The room folded. I don't have cleaner language than that. The chamber didn't stay where it was. Angles slid. Corners unhooked and reattached in new places. The door we'd come through wasn't where we'd left it. Then it was. Then it wasn't. The floor tilted 30 degrees and my stomach flipped, but my feet stayed flat like gravity hadn't gotten the memo. My vision doubled. For a second I saw us from the ceiling, tiny figures scrambling in a maze of bronze and cable and light. Then I snapped back into my own eyes. I almost threw up in my mask. Rook was crying, silent, tears running down his face. His mouth moved. I couldn't hear him. His radio light blinked green. His rig flashed, signal lost, signal found, signal lost in rapid loop. His compass spun lazy circles. We hauled. Mason grabbed the hooded thing under one arm like a fireman carry, except it didn't weigh right. Too light. Way too light for a grown adult male. Mason grunted, surprised, then adjusted. The hooded thing hung limp, arms down, feet dragging, head lolling, like it had powered off. But I could still see its chest not moving. I could still see the dead black thermal strip. We sprinted for the hatch. The copies of us flickered alongside us like bad ghosts. Vega staggered. Her face looked gray. Her pupils were blown. She clutched her chest with one hand like something hurt under the sternum. Blood ran from her nose in two thin lines and soaked into her mask. Her other hand held tight to her med rig like it was a lifeline. "Go," she gasped. "Go, go, go." We hit the bronze and steel hatch. Mason slammed his shoulder into it. It opened like whoever built it wanted us gone. Heat chased us. Wet, heavy heat that felt alive. It licked the back of my neck like breath. The air behind us pulsed. I felt a pressure wave slam into my spine and shove. It wasn't physical. My body didn't move forward. My mind did. I flashed through a dozen images, fast, like cards. Leah in bed, hair across her face. Leah laughing at a bad movie. Leah crying in the kitchen when her mother called with the scan results. Leah saying, "Just stop doing this, please. Just stop." Each image hit like a hammer, then tore away. It felt like someone was stealing copies as I ran. "Don't look back," the hooded thing said. Its voice came from nowhere and everywhere at once, not delayed anymore, perfectly synced. "Do not look back. Do not look back. Do not—" We didn't. We ran for the lift. We hit the lift platform like a fire team under contact. Gallows stumbled, almost fell through the rail gap with his missing arm, then slammed down onto the grate and rolled onto his back. He was shaking. Sweat poured off him in sheets. His skin looked gray-green under the bad light. The sealed, smooth end of his arm didn't bleed. It just sat there, wrong, too clean. Vega dropped to her knees beside him. Her hands moved on autopilot. She checked pupil response with a tiny penlight. The penlight flickered, then went dead. She swore under her breath and tossed it. "Stay with me," she said. Her voice sounded raw. "Stay with me, Gallows, you stubborn—" She stopped. Her eyes went wide. She leaned in, listening. "What?" Mason barked. "His pulse," she whispered. "What about it?" Mason said. "It's not human," she said. Gallows laughed. A wet, choking sound. "Define human," he gasped. The lift lurched. No one touched the crank. We shot up. I don't have another verb. We didn't rise. We shot. My stomach slammed toward my boots. My knees went weak. Vega grabbed the rail with one hand and Gallows' vest with the other. Rook curled around his rig and screamed without sound. Tariq flattened himself against the rail, eyes squeezed shut, lips moving in prayer. The shaft around us blurred. The burned symbols on the walls smeared into lines. The hum in the rails climbed to a scream I felt in my bones more than heard. My vision went tunnel. Black crept in at the edges. My mask tasted like plastic and copper and blood. Then, like a switch, we were at the first landing. The one with the branded floor and the too smooth concrete ring. We had dropped a long way to get there. We shouldn't have come up that fast without our spines snapping. My spine was still intact. My head pounded like I'd been deep underwater. We didn't stop. The platform jerked again, harder, and we shot up the ladder shaft. Heat chased us up, then cold, then heat again. Air pressure slammed my eardrums in and out like a hand squeezing a balloon. My vision strobed with each pressure hit. Leah's face flashed in the strobes. Then, Leah as an old woman I didn't know yet. Then, Leah holding a kid I'd never seen. Then, Leah alone. The hooded thing hung loose in Mason's grip the whole ride, like a dead weight that wasn't dead. Its head lolled against Mason's chest. The gag strap creaked as its mouth worked under it, silent now. The black thermal strip on its sternum stayed black. We hit open air like breaking surface after a dive. The hatch in the cinder block spit us out into Tehran night. Dry, thin air, dust grit, diesel, horns a block away, a scooter in the distance, a dog barking somewhere, city noise, city smell, human life. I sucked a breath through the filter and almost sobbed. The metallic taste in my throat eased. My ears popped and held. For a second I thought we'd made it. Then I checked my watch. 23:40. We had been underground, maybe 30 minutes, tops. It felt like less. My last timestamp memory before descent was 22:49. Control said we should enter at 22:55, present at 23:11, depart at 23:19. We hit surface at 23:40. Time slipped. "Move," Mason snapped. "Van, now!" We half-carried, half-dragged the hooded thing toward the Hyundai. Gallows staggered with us, teeth clenched, cradling the sealed stump of his missing arm. Vega stayed glued to his side, one hand pressed against his chest like she could will his heart to stay. Rook stumbled behind us, eyes wide, face wet with tears he didn't seem to notice. He kept muttering, "Signal lost, signal found, signal lost," under his breath like a broken radio. Tariq walked backward, watching the alley mouth, hand inside his jacket where he kept a concealed piece he swore he wouldn't need because this was supposed to be friendly. We piled into the van. Mason shoved the hooded thing onto the floor between the second-row seats and braced it with his boots. It lay on its side, wrists still cuffed, hood still on, chest still not moving. The gag strap flexed once, twice. The van smelled like bleach and diesel and now blood. Real human blood. Mine, Vega's, Gallows, hot copper in the air. Mason slammed the door. "Drive," he barked. "I'm not behind the wheel," Tariq said. "I got it," Vega said. Your medic, Mason snapped. I'm not letting anyone else steer with one arm missing and one brain fried, she said. She climbed into the driver's seat, slammed her shaking hands onto the wheel, and gunned it. The engine coughed once, then caught. We peeled out of the service lane. Tires bumped over broken asphalt. The city opened around us like nothing had happened. Neon signs, headlights, a street vendor still packing up skewers, 2 kids on a scooter weaving too close. Normal like a scream behind glass. I looked at Gallows. He stared back at me, jaw clenched. Sweat dripped off his nose. His skin had gone waxy. He looked shocky, but his pupils were sharp and locked. You good? I asked. No, he said. Can you hold? I asked. He just snorted. Guess I don't got a choice. I looked at his missing arm again. The skin at the sealed end wasn't scarred. It was smooth, uniform, like a 3D print. No pores, no hair, no blood. It was like his body decided that limb had never existed and patched reality to match. Any pain? Vega called from the driver's seat, eyes on the road. No, he said. That's not great, she said. Rook rocked in his seat and stared at his rig. The little screen still flashed, signal lost, signal found. He wiped his face with his sleeve and stared at me. His voice came out wrong, flattened, toned like a machine reading script. We've been tagged, he said. What? I asked. He lifted his sleeve. Under the skin of his forearm, just above the wrist, I saw something move. Tiny, dark, like a grain of metal under the skin. It crawled, slowly, purposeful. It left a faint trail behind it that glowed, then faded. My voice isn't my voice, he said monotone. My voice module has been reallocated. My vocal cords are no longer organic assets. My output channel is now mission property. My throat belongs to control. His face crumpled. The monotone cracked. His next words came out as a panicked rasp. Ledger, what the hell did they do to me? He whispered. Memory tax, time debt, body edits. This was the cost. I checked Vega. She was pale, too pale, sweat slick on her forehead. Her breath came shallow, fast. One hand on the wheel, one arm wrapped around her ribs like something hurt inside. You okay? I asked. No, she said. What did they take? I asked. She swallowed, her jaw clenched. Her eyes stayed on the road. My brother's years, she whispered. My stomach turned. What does that mean? I asked. They didn't take mine, she said. They took his. They paid for his surgery with his future. They said he won't know. They said it'll redistribute burden. They said he'll just die sooner. Quiet, painless, probable aneurysm at 46. No ER can prevent. Pre-cleared in timeline. Ledger, I heard it, in my head, like a chart. Her knuckles went white on the wheel. I didn't have words. Mason sat in the passenger seat, body coiled, eyes scanning mirrors. His face didn't show anything, but his left hand, the taped wrist, shook. Just a little. He kept glancing down at his watch. Every time he checked, his jaw tightened more. What did they do to you? I whispered. He didn't look at me. They said my kid lives, he said. That's good, I said. They said my kid doesn't know me, he said. The hum in the van changed. It took me a second to realize what it was. The hooded thing on the floor between our boots was humming. Not mouth, not throat, full body resonance, low and steady. The kind of hum you feel through your bones, not your ears. The thermal strip on its chest was still dead black. Its ribs still didn't move. But the hum ran up through the van floor and into my feet. It vibrated in my knees. It made my fillings buzz. Anchor lock stable, it whispered. The mouth moved a half second after the sound, like early again. Field transfer complete, mobile containment engaged, city loss averted. Time debt assigned, memory debt assigned. You will now proceed to control. Where? Vega asked. The hood turned its covered face toward her. Control, it repeated. Give me an address, she snapped. Silence. Of course, she muttered. I leaned back in my seat. My whole body shook. My hands wouldn't stop. My mouth tasted like metal and fear and the ghost of Leah's perfume. My head pounded. I tried to think about Leah. I tried to hold her face steady in my head. It kept slipping. Every time I pictured her eyes, they blurred. Every time I pictured her laugh, it dropped out of sync. Every time I pictured the ring and the sock in my go bag, I saw my hand holding nothing. That's when I realized what they took from me. They took the future where I stood next to her. It wasn't that I wouldn't see her again. It was that in the version of the story where she lives safe, I'm already gone. Control didn't look like a base. Control looked like a quiet clinic 2 neighborhoods over from where we staged, with a rolling shutter and a metal door that buzzed when Tariq pressed his palm to a black square. No signage, no camera dome, no plate, just a door and a hum under the concrete like a substation through wet soil. The van smelled like bleach, diesel, and copper. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. We carried the hooded thing inside. Mason and Gallows took the weight. It didn't fight, it didn't help. It just hummed through their arms like a powered tool on idle. My fillings buzzed from standing too close. I could taste hot iron and old disinfectant in the back of my throat. The entry hall had drop-ceiling tiles, white paint, and cheap laminate flooring. It also had blast doors cut into the drywall and a negative-pressure air pull like a biolab. The air moved past my face fast and cold. I smelled hospital plastic and ozone. I didn't smell people. No sweat, no coffee, no paper. The kind of sterile that means an ops team turned the place over an hour before you arrived and took all their DNA with them. A woman met us in the first room. White coat, clipboard, hairnet, mask. She never said her name. Her eyes did not look at me like I was human. They looked at me like I was a test subject walking on its own. Place stabilized asset on Gurney 3, she said. Her voice didn't have city in it. It didn't have region in it. It had nothing in it. Like someone flattened tone in a filter. I couldn't hear breath moves between her words. She might as well have been reading off a monitor. Mason and Gallows lowered the hooded thing onto the gurney. Stainless frame, plastic rails, fresh disposable sheet already in place. The thermal. Strip on its chest was still dead black. The gag strap still crossed its mouth. Its wrists were still cuffed. The cuffs had new serials now. I didn't watch the swap happen. Field lock is portable, Mason said. He sounded like he was finishing a rehearsed handoff line. Anchor load has redistributed. Time debt has been assigned. City loss averted. Logged, the woman said. She tapped her clipboard once. Not writing, just tapping. The cables running from the core in that chamber were gone, but the hum coming off the hooded thing was still there. Low, steady. You felt it in your teeth. Clear for containment, she said. A door slid open in the wall behind her. Not a hinge door. A slab. Matte gray. Seamless. It moved without noise. Cold air rolled out of the gap. The air smelled like coolant and copper. My sinuses stung. 2 men stepped through. Full hood, full face shield. Suits like soft armor, not biohazard. Their gloves were thick. Their boots were thick. Their posture looked wrong for medtechs. Too balanced, too ready to hit something. Each one wore a little black box high on the chest with a dim green LED. The LED pulsed in triads. Bind, contain, awaken. They took the gurney. Not a word, not a glance. They rolled that thing through the gray slab door and vanished with it. That was it. No prayer, no oath, no "you did good," no chain of custody form, no signature, no proof I had delivered anything. The hooded thing was just gone. They didn't even close the gag. They didn't check vitals because there weren't any vitals to check. Control had the asset. We had the cost. They moved us to separate rooms for medical. Standard post-contact exam, they said. Nothing abnormal, they said. I sat on a cold table under a buzzing fluorescent that flickered in a repeating cadence. 3 fast, 1 slow. The room smelled like alcohol swabs and bleach. There was grit under my boots from unsealed concrete, like the finishing crew never quite got the dust out. A tech in scrubs, no name, no rank, no patch, ran a wand over my skull. The wand hummed. I could feel it through my teeth. EEG clear, she said, even though she hadn't looked at a screen yet. She flashed a penlight into my eyes. Pupil response within baseline, she said, even though mine were still blown wide. She pressed 2 fingers to my wrist for half a second. Pulse normal, she said. My pulse is not normal, I said. Pulse normal, she repeated. She checked a box on a tablet. The tablet screen showed no abnormality detected in block caps. Big green font. The font looked like it had been designed to reassure a Senate aide. Time perception drift, she asked. Yes, I said. She checked no. Audio anomalies. Persistent internal voice bleed, she asked. Yes, I said. She checked no. Visual overlay, she asked. I thought about Leah's face flashing in my head. I thought about seeing her in the chamber for 1 blink before reality snapped back. Yes, I said. She checked no. I laughed. Short, ugly. It came out like a bark. My mouth tasted like metal and blood. My throat burned. Am I cleared? I asked. You're cleared, she said. Am I contaminated? I asked. You're cleared, she said. You think that means they're lying? It doesn't. It means contaminated is now part of cleared. They pulled blood from all of us. They swabbed our cheeks. They scraped under our nails. Vega asked for a copy of her brother's clearance packet. The woman in the white coat said, "Release decisions are already in motion. He has been placed in a survivable branch." Vega said, "Show me." And the woman said, "You don't need to see?" Vega's eyes filled. She swallowed it. She signed whatever they gave her. Rook asked for a throat scan. He said his voice wasn't his voice. He said the box under his skin was moving. They ran the wand over his throat and said, "No foreign body detected." He said, "I can feel it crawling." They said, "No foreign body detected." His voice would slide in and out of that machine-flat monotone now. You could hear the switch. Machine. Human. Machine. Human. A hitch like a buffer. He cried, silent, shoulders shaking. They wrote psychosomatic adjustment response. Gallows held up the place where his arm should have been and said, "You're seeing this, right?" The tech glanced at it like it was a paper cut. "Surgical amputation recorded in prior history," she said. "No acute injury." Gallows laughed until he almost choked. "I had 2 arms this morning," he said. She checked denial, stress-induced temporal disorientation. Mason sat there like stone. He let them scan him. He let them draw him. He answered nothing. When they asked about time drift, he stared through the tech until she stopped asking. When they said his kid had cleared critical risk band, a muscle in his jaw twitched. That was it. He looked like a man who'd already been broken and glued back together in a different shape. Me, I asked when I could call Leah. The woman in the white coat blinked once. "Leah has already entered safe relocation," she said. "She doesn't know she's relocating," I said. "She will," the woman said. "I'm supposed to be there," I said. "You won't," she said. My mouth went dry. My hands shook. I could smell my own sweat now under the hospital bleach. Sharp and sour. Stress sweat. I tasted copper at the back of my tongue. "Where am I going?" I asked. "Placement," she said. "What placement?" I asked. "Continuity support," she said. "What does that mean?" I asked. "You will be near other doors," she said. So that was that. We were not witnesses. We were assets. We were walking field locks with memory debt and time debt stitched into us. We weren't going to be debriefed. We were going to be deployed. When they finished the medical, they handed us folders. Each folder had a promotion letter, unsigned. Mine said, Senior Liaison, Strategic Stability Desk. New pay band, new security envelope, new housing credit. It looked like reward. It was leash. There was also a non-disclosure sheet, not standard NDA. This one had a header I'd never seen. Damascus Protocol, Tier. Read, Continuity of Civilian Narrative. The language was clean and cold. You acknowledge by signature that the events you experienced are classified at Tier Red, above Top Secret, and fall under Continuity of Civilian Narrative Authority. You acknowledge that dissemination constitutes an existential threat to domestic and allied time stability. You acknowledge that you will be monitored for compliance permanently. Permanently. I signed. We all signed. What else was there to do? Say no and get flagged. Not compliant with continuity. Translate that. Remove. Quiet. No record. They escorted us out in pairs, not all together, staggered. We didn't leave as a team. Teams tell stories. We left as noise. Mason and Vega first, Rook and Gallows next. Tariq with a handler I didn't recognize. Me alone with a driver I never saw in light. The van smelled like vinyl and cold air. The streets rolled by in gray blur. Tehran looked normal. Street vendors, long headlights, neon reflection on wet concrete. Life. Control had the hooded thing. Control had our debt clock. Control had my leverage on Leah. Officially, nothing abnormal happened. We conducted a routine liaison pickup under a municipal infrastructure cover. We were never underground. We were never near radiological material. We were never exposed to biological hazards. We never made contact with non-state actors. We never witnessed breach activity. No shots were fired. No injuries occurred. We all returned stable. We were all cleared fit for duty. That is what the report will say. That is what the record will hold. That is how this story dies inside the system. Unless someone pulls it out and names it. They call it Damascus Protocol now. That's the word they used in front of us. Not a code word, a doctrine. That means it isn't the first time. That means it won't be the last. I thought it was local. I thought we had stumbled into a one-site anomaly. I thought they would build a wall around Tehran and call it handled. I was wrong. This is already global. This is already doctrine. I am in front of my notes now. I am in front of maps, dates, and scraps of testimony people were not supposed to give me. I am looking at patterns, and the pattern is not new. It's just buried under new names. June 18, 1982, South Atlantic. The official story says British Special Operations were conducting sabotage missions in support of the Falklands conflict. That's clean. That's printable. What doesn't print is the 9-hour blackout window in the unit. Log. SAS detachment. Material recovery. That is the phrase. Material recovery. I've traced 2 of the men who lived long enough to talk, separately, years apart. Both describe going below volcanic rock into heat that shouldn't have been there, hearing a hum in the stone and being told not to answer if it talked. Not if they talk. If it talks. The debrief file that survived into the 90s uses a phrase that repeats now. Field lock burden will be borne by present handlers. The same burden language sits in Damascus Protocol. Different war. Same shape. October 5, 1991. Murmansk Oblast. A Spetsnaz unit attached to what was then still being called border security moves on a decommissioned radar node that officially doesn't exist. The node sits 30 kilometers from the Kola coast. It's supposed to be cold and dead. They find heat signatures under the permafrost and non-standard power draw at 3.17. They report rhythmic EM bleed that cycles in triads. Bind, contain, awaken. Their radio transcripts go strange. Phrases repeat. Time stamps duplicate. One operator reports geometric incursion and local chronology slippage. Another reports city loss risk Murmansk urban center total. Then silence. 6 hours later, a single truck exits the site under escort. The truck's manifest is sealed with a red striped stamp. The Russian term is not Damascus Protocol. It translates to Caucasus Lock. Different word, same idea. Anchor load, field lock, human proximity as sealant. March 3, 1999. High Arctic. DW line inspection run by USAF contractors flagged as routine antenna maintenance. The paperwork cites ice shear damage to early warning infrastructure. The flight path says they landed near an abandoned early warning station that hasn't been manned since the 70s. The station is supposed to be snowed in. The thermal image leak I saw shows open air around the access hatch and a hot plume that looks like exhaust venting from nowhere. The team lead files a classified addendum that never goes through standard NORAD channels. That addendum, in the version I obtained, is almost entirely blacked. The 3 visible phrases, threshold integrity compromised, anchor transfer incomplete, and handler acceptance obtained under duress. Under duress. Same as Mason forcing us to say yes with a gunless stare and Leah's name in my ear. July 12, 2007. North Pacific. Naval SOSUS tech assigned to acoustic surveillance on undersea cables logs a non-acoustic transient. Not whale song, not prop cavitation, not seismic. He writes, carrier tone with phase-locked triad pulse. Signal induces nausea, metallic taste, and intrusive memory of non-witnessed childhood trauma. He is told his statement is psychosomatic adjustment response. He is reassigned to shore duty within 48 hours with full pension vesting, which never happens that fast. Damascus Protocol language didn't exist on paper yet. The internal note calls it anchor containment event. The tech dies at 46 of a spontaneous brain bleed. No prior risk factors. No autopsy beyond catastrophic vessel failure. Vega hears that same number when she talks about her brother's projected aneurysm. 46, quiet, pre-cleared in timeline, May 22, 2015, Central Anatolia. A joint tasking with a NATO cover goes off-grid near a decommissioned Soviet-era listening post years after the Soviets are gone. The site shouldn't have power. The site has power. The team that goes in is listed as environmental audit. Their kit list includes dosimeters, rad detectors, air samplers. Their body cams all malfunction. Their radios all malfunction. Their GPS units report coordinates under an airstrip that was filled in with concrete in 1993. One survivor comes out and says, "We were told not to look back or the town would disappear." There is no town on any map within 15 kilometers of that site. There are signs of foundations and satellite photos, cracked walls, grid scars, the kind of marks you only see when people lived there and the ground remembers weight. No record of their names. It is written off as a Kurdish ghost village. It is not Kurdish. The lines are too straight. The concrete mix is NATO, not local. September 2, 2021. Nevada Desert. The public-facing story is drone testing. We've all seen the drone testing headline. You stop reading at that point, but there's a secondary internal memo stamped Continuity Domestic. That stamp didn't exist in 2021 anywhere I could search, and yet it's on that memo. The memo describes dimensional stress indicators at depth under inactive test range. Civilian time stability collateral risk Las Vegas metro area high, and handler pool inadequate for sustained lock. Handler pool. They didn't say operators, they said handlers. That's our word. That's my word. Hum, retain, human sources. Get them in, keep them breathing. Only now, keep them breathing, includes keep the timeline breathing. It keeps repeating. Different uniforms, different languages, same structure. You go somewhere that shouldn't be there. You go down through a hatch that doesn't belong to that era. You feel pressure in your teeth before you see anything. Instruments throw fits. Cameras watch but don't remember. Radios show connected but reach no one. You meet something that talks in terms of anchor load and field lock. It gives you a cost. You say yes. You take that cost into your body and your future. You come back with something strapped down and humming. Officially, you were never there. Officially, nothing abnormal happened. Unofficially, you now live next to a door forever. Here is the part no one writes down. Each report includes a line like city loss risk, city loss, city erasure, complete urban chronology deletion. The phrases change. The math doesn't. The threat or is not attack. The threat is removal. Not death, absence. Like the city never sat on that dirt. Field lock burden, memory debt, time debt. Those phrases are not theory anymore. I can trace them from Falklands to Murmansk to the DRZW line to Sosus to Nevada to Tehran. The people in those rooms were told the same thing we were told in that chamber under Tehran. You are the lock. You are the seal. You are the nail in the door. If you walk, the door opens and the map changes. This is not some whispered ritual in a bunker under a holy site. This is policy. This is infrastructure. This is triaged like power grid stability and nuclear accident response. They have vocabulary. They have workflow. They have intake. They have aftercare. They have compensation packages. They have relocation for loved ones. They have planned obituaries. They call it Damascus Protocol now. You can call it whatever you want. Call it containment. Call it continuity. Call it civilization insurance. The name doesn't change the math. Different flags, same hum. This is already global. This is already doctrine. I am recording this now, present tense. I am in a room I did not choose. They call it transitional housing. It looks like a rental apartment that hasn't been lived in yet. White walls, gray couch, a table that still smells like factory varnish, a fridge that hums a little too steady. The hum sits in my teeth. The air tastes too clean, like hospital air passed through ionizers. No dust, no city grit, no real life. The lights in here flicker. I don't mean they're loose in the socket. I don't mean bad wiring. They flicker in cadence. 3 fast, 1 slow. Pause. 3 fast, 1 slow. The same pattern as the alley light over the hatch. The same pattern as the carrier tone in the wall. The same pattern as the hum in the cables under Tehran. The same cadence that means, we see you. My watch is wrong. I said it twice already. I set it off my phone. I set it off the wall clock. The wall clock says 21.13. My watch drifts to 23:40, then slides back to 21:13, like time is a rubber band. Every time it jumps forward, my stomach turns over and I smell coolant and old copper. Every time it snaps back, I taste blood. There are footsteps in the hallway outside the door. Not neighbor footsteps, not hotel footsteps. These hits land too clean, too even. No weight shift, no ankle roll, heel to toe, heel to toe. The cadence is human. The weight is not. 80 kilos of presence without 80 kilos of mass. It sounds like the walk we heard in that chamber before we saw the figure with no shadow. The air pressure in the room shifts with each step. My ears pop like we're changing altitude. I swallow. My throat tastes like metal. They told me I'm alone in this unit. They told me the next unit over is empty. They told me this floor is sealed for maintenance. The footsteps stop outside my door. My phone is on the table in front of me. It's a new phone. Control issued. It hums every few minutes even when it's dark. Right now, the screen lights on its own. No notification sound. No vibration. Just light. There's a voicemail icon. I haven't given this number to anyone. I press play. I hear Leah. Not the version of her talking in my ear in the chamber. Not the Leah voice the hooded thing borrowed in the core light. This is her like kitchen at midnight, no makeup. Soft voice full of sleep because she stayed up waiting for me. This is her real wave pattern. My chest aches when I hear it. "Hey," she says. "Sorry, I know you said not to use this number yet, but they gave it to me in the packet and said it was already cleared, and they said you'd want to hear my voice. We landed. They moved us faster than you said. You weren't at the gate like you promised, but it's okay. I know you're doing the important thing. I just wanted you to know Mom's awake. She's not in pain. They said she has more time. Ledger, they said we're going to be fine. They said you agreed." Her breathing sounds calm. Too calm. She doesn't cough. Her mother doesn't cough in the background. I don't hear hospital machines. I hear nothing under her voice, no room tone, no air, no life. "I love you," Leah says. "Even if you can't come, I love you. They said you won't get to see me, but you'll get to keep me safe. That's enough, right? That's what you wanted. That's what you said you wanted." I didn't say that. The message clicks off. No timestamp. My throat closes. My eyes burn. I can smell her shampoo in my head. I can't remember the exact shape of her smile. Every time I try to picture it, the image slips like bad video. The fridge hum deepens. The lights flicker again. 3 fast, 1 slow. "Handler package present," a voice says. It doesn't come from the door. It doesn't come from the phone. It comes from everywhere in the room at once. It comes from inside my jaw. My molars buzz with it. My tongue tastes like a battery. The air pressure drops and pops back, drops and pops back. My left ear goes muffled. Comes back. Muffled again. I stand up. My knees shake. The floor feels soft for a second, like poured concrete that hasn't cured yet. I blink, and it's normal again. Laminate. Cheap. Cold. The door handle turns. Slow. I didn't buzz anyone in. I didn't hear the elevator. The handle turns anyway. I want to move. I don't. My body won't. My back goes cold. My hands tingle. My vision tightens. I can smell hot dust and copper. I can taste ozone. My heart pounds so hard I feel it in my throat. The door opens 3 inches. Not all the way. Just enough to show dark hallway. Just enough to let air roll in. Wet, warm air. Reactor air. Basements under Tehran air. Old blood under bleach. Something stands in the gap. For a second, less than a heartbeat, I see Leah. Hair loose, eyes soft, wearing my gray sweater, the one with the frayed sleeve. She lifts her hand. I see the ring on her finger. The ring from the sock in my go bag. The ring I never gave her. "Baby," she says. "Listen." Then her mouth moves and the sound lags behind a half second. The sync slips. Her jaw keeps opening after the word is done. Her face holds the smile a little too long. The eyes don't blink. The shadow behind her doesn't match her shoulders. It bends at the wrong angle. The hallway behind her hums. Low, steady, triad pulse, bind, contain, awaken. The lights in my unit pulse back. 3 fast, 1 slow. My watch jumps forward to 2340 and holds. The hum in the fridge sinks to the hum in the hall. The air pressure in the room tightens around my head like a hand. I understand then. They didn't just send me home with trauma. They placed me next to a door. They placed me as part of the lock. And now that lock is in my hallway. You are hearing this because you're next to one too.